We're going to be driving thousands of miles through Europe and hopefully to Monaco, the place when I got this car I really wanted to go, and I want this to work more than anything.
Imagine turning a written-off supercar into one of the most talked-about machines on Europe's most famous roads. What if the fix for a hopeless Bugatti wasn't a six-figure repair bill, but a single overlooked part? This is the story of Matt Armstrong and a Bugatti Veyron that almost everyone assumed would never move again. The story starts with a repossessed Veyron, a car built around some of the most advanced engineering on the road, reduced to her expensive paperweight by a gearbox that refused to leave park. Despite its pedigree and price tag, it simply sat there. It was a reminder that even legendary machines can be brought down by problems that seem impossible to diagnose from the outside. What made the situation so striking wasn't just the car's value, it was how completely stuck it was. A car built to be among the fastest in the world, unable to move at all. Bugatti owners expect perfection. This particular Veyron was about as far from that as a car can get. No one could drive it. The gearbox appeared to be locked solid. Rather than write the car off or hand it straight to a dealer for an expensive diagnosis, Matt Armstrong decided to dig into the problem himself. The obvious question hung over the whole project. How does a car built with this much precision end up beaten by something so basic? Most people assumed it would take a major mechanical repair, possibly a full gearbox replacement, to bring it back. The real answer was hiding somewhere far simpler. It just needed someone patient enough to find it. That gap between reputation and reality is really what makes this story worth telling. A car this rare comes with a built-in assumption. If something goes wrong, it must be catastrophic, and the fix has to be equally dramatic. Matt's approach challenged that from the start. Instead of treating the car as a mystery only a factory technician could untangle, he treated it as a machine, one that could be understood, tested, and traced back to its actual point of failure, one system at a time. Matt started with hands-on investigation, pulling apart sections of the car that most owners would never touch. Instead of jumping straight to expensive replacement parts, he worked methodically through the wiring that controlled the gearbox. What he found was a pattern of overlooked damage and past shortcuts. The root cause turned out to be a single melted 40-amp fuse, cheap to replace, but responsible for the entire failure. That fuse had already been the victim of a bad repair. Instead of tracking down the electrical fault that kept blowing it, someone had simply swapped in a bigger fuse each time, hoping to push through the problem rather than solve it. That's a genuinely risky habit, since an oversized fuse can let a fault keep drawing current instead of tripping safely. When Matt replaced the fuse correctly, a $3 part, the gearbox came back to life instantly. It wasn't a flashy fix. There was no rare component or specialist tool involved. It was careful diagnosis winning out over the assumption that a broken Bugatti has to mean an astronomical bill. The gearbox had never actually failed mechanically. The issue was electrical, and it was fixable, but only if someone took the time to trace it properly instead of accepting the broken beyond repair label at face value. It's a pattern that shows up more often than people expect, even in the exotic car world. A component fails, the fault isn't chased down properly, and the same failure keeps happening until someone finally stops treating the symptom and starts looking for the cause. In this case, the cause was small enough to hold in one hand. Finding it just took someone willing to look past the car's reputation and treat the problem like any other electrical fault. With the gearbox working again, Matt turned to giving the car a full service. Bugatti's quote for the work was around £20,000, a figure that reflects how exclusive, rather than how expensive, hypercar maintenance tends to be. Because the Veyron shares a significant number of components with other Volkswagen Group vehicles, Matt was able to source equivalent parts independently without cutting any corners. The full service covered 16 spark plugs, coil packs, every filter, gearbox oil, engine oil, and the mass airflow sensors, a complete overhaul by any measure. Matt completed it for roughly £1,193, a fraction of the dealer quote. That gap says less about the actual cost of parts and labor and more about what owners are really paying for when they go through an official channel, access and brand control, not necessarily better materials or expertise. It wasn't a shortcut. Every component was cross-checked against the original specification, which meant the car came out of the service not just running, but ready for serious performance. With the mechanical work done, Matt moved on to putting his own stamp on the car. He wrapped it in a satin silver finish, a departure from the gloss most Veyrons wear, giving it a sleeker, more understated presence. He fitted custom Vossen wheels, chosen not just for looks but for the balance of strength and weight needed to handle the car's power. He also restored the front splitter, which had been damaged over time, a component that matters as much for high-speed stability as it does for appearance. Perhaps the most impressive piece of the project was the speed key. Bugatti's official replacement would have cost close to $10,000. Rather than pay that, Matt built his own, a small act of engineering that captures the spirit of the whole rebuild, solving a problem instead of simply paying to make it go away. Just as the car was closing in on a top-speed run to prove itself, a new problem appeared. The fuel pump control module failed, forcing another delay. It was a reminder that even a carefully rebuilt supercar stays complicated, no matter how much work has already gone into it. This repair wasn't something Matt could handle on his own. It needed an official replacement module and dealer installation, costing around £4,500. After everything already overcome, it was simply one more step rather than a setback that threatened to end the project. The first stop on the post-rebuild tour was Switzerland, where Matt and his crew found themselves surrounded by Lamborghinis, McLarens, and other hypercars. Even in that company, the Veyron stood out, not just for what it was, but for the story people already recognized behind it. From there, the car crossed into France, Bugatti's home country. It moved through French streets quietly, but the moment carried weight of its own. A car once written off as unfixable, now driving through the birthplace of its own legend. The contrast between where it started and where it now stood was hard to miss. The real test came in Monaco, a place used to seeing the best supercars in the world pass through on any given night. Even there, Matt's satin silver Veyron drew a crowd among the Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and McLarens already lining the streets. People stopped, phones came out, and word of the car's history moved through the crowd almost as fast as the attention itself. What made the moment land wasn't rarity alone. Plenty of rare cars passed through Monaco without turning heads the way this one did. It was the story people already knew, a broken repossession, brought back not by an unlimited budget, but by patience and a refusal to accept unfixable as the final word. In a world where supercar ownership is often treated as something to be handled entirely by specialists and dealerships, this Veyron made a different case. That real expertise, applied carefully, can solve problems the official channels would rather sell you out of. Every setback along the way, the fuse, the service bill, the fuel pump, had led to this exact moment. A car that was once immobile, now on one of the most demanding stages in the automotive world. For the people watching that night, the appeal wasn't just the badge or the horsepower. It was the fact that the car in front of them had a history most Veyrons never get to have. It had been given up on, taken apart, understood, and rebuilt by someone who refused to accept the first verdict handed down on it. That's a different kind of story than most supercars carry, and it's part of why the crowd's reaction felt less like routine car spotting and more like watching a genuine underdog story play out in real time. Matt Armstrong's Bugatti Veyron didn't get to Monaco because of an unlimited budget. It got there because someone was willing to look closer, question the assumptions, and do the work most people would have paid someone else to avoid. From a stalled gearbox in a garage to a crowd gathering around it on one of the world's most famous streets, the car's journey says as much about persistence as it does about engineering. Proof that sometimes the biggest problems really do come down to the smallest, most overlooked details.